Hiding in plain sight. I'm very fascinated with this aspect of the Delphi murders case. This is the case of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, whose lives were taken on the 13th of February 4 years ago in 2017. And 2 years later, Doug Carter, with all the law enforcement officers around him, made, this passionate speech, this war cry at oppressor, okay? And this is where he's talking about, I believe you're hiding in plain sight, and all of the other rhetoric he used. And, so then everyone's trying to solve, what does this mean? And I've spoken to before, there was this article by Laura Shultz in Crime Magazine in 2010 talking about serial killers and how the FBI, it's a term that they use, hiding in plain sight for serial killers. So, whilst some of us are sort of, we might be thinking, does this mean someone like, James Brian Chadwell, who has this active social media life, or, does it mean something to do with the Amish or Mennonite people, the plain people, and how does everything tie in? And then we've gotten shown this image, this shape-shifting image to go with this disembodied voice. And, really, what are we just assume, because every frame is different? It's like, is this a creation by Disney? Is that what they actually did? Is that their role? Because, it's so intangible. It's so, you just can't be grasped, what this person looks like. You've got, all the shadows that are only there for such a short amount of time that, you've got people saying what so-called witnesses, supposed witnesses, saw a white scarf, but, it goes through the internet like wildfire over the last 4 years that this is a Halloween mask, like a Jason face mask, and you have that funny connection that Chadwell is, I guess, hooked on Halloween. But, this hiding in plain sight, the psyche of a serial killer, it's nearly like, well, what is the point of, is this just theatrics for the people who would appreciate him using this term for, like, other law enforcement officers? Was that sort of, is this the way that they communicate with everyone around America, saying, look, we've got a serial killer here? There's other ways, isn't there? But I thought, well, I'll go back to that article and I'll just jot down something that was quoted in there, which was a study by Joel Norris, a psychologist, and he studied over 500 serial killers. And this is the pattern that they follow, and it's 7 steps. So number 1 is the aura phase. And in this phase, the person, the serial killer, or the person who's going to become the serial killer, he is withdrawing from everything in his life other than what he's most strongly obligated to do. And he will be possibly using alcohol and other drugs to heighten his entry into the fantasy of what he wants to do. He is getting just deeply personally lost into his the things that he wants to do. They intensify over weeks or even years. So he's sort of withdrawing a bit from some things. He might be doing the obligatory things like, going to work, or, just the basics. But really, other things that he normally would do might dry up. And this is he's just deeply invested in the fantasy life. And phase 2 is the trolling phase, and he's made that decision. Okay, so he's made the decision, and he's looking for an easy victim, or where would he find victims? And he's looking at his comfort zone areas. So, he's planning methods. Where is his comfort zone? And where are the dump sites? So he's perusing sites. He's working out in his mind, the who, the how, the where sort of thing, okay? Then phase 3 is the wooing phase, and this is reserved for the organised killer, and these are the ones that might be more adept socially. So they've got better developed social skills. So this might be, this could be the person that happens to have a life situation where they are in contact with people, where they can start paying more attention to persons that interest them, or it could be where they, approach people that they haven't met but have noticed, and their social skills, their ability, like the mask that they can wear, all those, just the ability to act in a certain way, sort of normal, so to speak, it allows them to gain trust, because it's this trust that gives them the opportunity to then lure somebody, lure them to their fate. And then stage 4, phase 4, is the capture. The capture is the most treasured moment, where he is in total control. There is zero charming veneer. Everything unravels, and that door is sealed, and that victim is helpless. And this is the most amazing moment out of the whole process. Number 5, the murder, the actual murder. And the organised killer will savour time with the victim to get to act out his fantasy almost in slow motion, and he will usually rape and torture while the victim is alive, and will extend his enjoyment as long as it is safe to do so. So depending on how this has all gone down, so if someone, if they are just out in the woods, but there's a trail and everything, this is going to be a quick phase. If there's been a kidnapping into a basement of a home, someone might be expecting that this is going to be quite a long phase. But this is where they are acting out all those things that they were focusing on in that aura phase. A disorganised killer in phase 5 kills in haste, rapes and disfigures them after the murder even. Then number 6 is the totem. Sorry, the lighting and everything is just terrible here, but anyway, it's doing weird things to my features. So the totem phase, so the excitement of the kill wanes, and an invasion of the sense of disappointment. This just seeps in, and it might lead to stealing body parts. It might lead to taking trophies. This is to help rekindle the thrill. So that huge, intense, can you imagine the adrenaline and all the, the things happening in the body, that huge rush and then that huge drop. Don't you think this is like taking a hit of something the first time? And then phase 7 is the depression phase. The realization sets in that the actual killing didn't live up to the fantasy. So there's that unfulfillment of the fantasies. These acts haven't reached the heights that he expected. And so he's going to try to reenact them, and it will never be as powerful a feeling. So this just leads to a pattern. This leads to the addiction to kill. And maybe this is why, we know crimes intensify and everything, and types of kill probably intensifies as well. So the stages of serial killing. So, James Chadwell would be an unorganised killer. He could have been in the wooing phase. He could have been focusing on this little girl in the neighbourhood for quite some time. Had he told her to go around to see the puppies, or did she just walk by and see them? Or had he seen her another day? But in the disorganised manner, of not really seeming to have a good plan if someone knocks on his door or anything. I mean, I don't know. His frame of mind, I mean, we can only imagine where his head was at, Yeah, so maybe I'll re-record this. I haven't been speaking very well. I just wanted to chat about that. And then, what are we to think about Robert Ives? I mean, again, this is something that, sets, all sorts of cats amongst the pigeons, because non-secular just gets your mind racing over all sorts of things, and it's easy to go to some very obvious symbolism and everything, but we've got to try and match this to the perpetrator. So what sort of symbolism, what sort of non-secular signatures and things would someone like a James Chadwell leave? I mean, something probably just truly demonic, whereas, other people might use things that are more witchcraft-like. Do you think dolls are demonic, or more based around sort of witchcraft? The use of puppets. Do you think, is it just something more like crosses and markings on the bodies, or, because, the perpetrator's history, everything that they have experience, that they have been exposed to in life, is what's going to, seed things in them, and then what's going to form this basis for, what's meaningful to them, So we know Chadwell's got some pretty sick tattoos and things, the demon eyes of the girl and the blood down her face and this sort of thing. But then we know, other perpetrators that are, other people that I guess are persons of interest have, schooling in scripture and things like that, which would be Bruce, for example, who's been a preacher in prisons. And in prisons, he's probably heard some pretty amazing stories, right? And if you're there to fuel your own fantasies, what better place? I've spoken about this before as well, how people like the opportunity. It's like, pedophiles want the opportunity to talk about crimes, so they might do it in a way pretending to, okay, let me help, I want to help now, I want to educate, and it's whatever gives them the opportunity to have these discussions, it's giving them supply. And so, for example, a Thomas Jerome Bruce going into prisons as a preacher to minister to violent criminals who have committed the sort of crime that he's interested in. I mean, this is an opportunity for him to say, would you like to confess? Would you like to talk about it? Isn't it? In a legitimate way. So what is the damage here that's been done to the community and to, by the way that information has been either held back or released with what we've actually gotten and when? Has this been brilliant, or has this been bullshit? What do you think? Because 70,000 call-ins, I mean, we know most of that is obviously going to be rubbish. And then how do they possibly wade through all of this? But for such a small town, I mean, how many times has the same person been called in, right? How many meddling wankers have called in against Ron Logan, for example? Yeah. So, hiding in plain sight. To me, it says serial killer. Why it has to be made in this, theatrical speech, I don't know. Does it help not to talk plainly to people? Why talk in these sorts of riddles that aren't going to be understandable, Doug Carter? What about saying, we believe that this sort of crime has been committed by this person in the past. We believe that there is a danger that they could commit it again. For example, or because we think this is a serial killer. I mean, now, yes, that would put the frighteners up people. Then why mention it at all? Why release that one extra word? Why even release images of the bridge person when the faces that you're going to release in sketches don't even really overlay onto the bridge troll's face, And when this person is walking over a bridge that, is going to affect a person's gait, why release it and say, we just want you to look at him, but don't look at his gait, because remember, he's walking over this damn bridge? I mean, what makes sense here? I just think it's nearly a whole load of rubbish. So I really hope they know what they're doing. There's, millions of theories flying around, some of them with a lot more cred than others, obviously. But for 4 years we've questioned how many damn people, and then, people that are closer to the case that talk to the law enforcement officers say, no, it is true what they say. The person on the bridge is the person that looks like the second sketch, and it is his voice, and he is the killer. This is what we're told over and over again. But you can be on the bridge and have it your voice and not be the bridge troll and have the face of the younger guy. We still don't know. You don't know how many people. I mean, I've thought there's, to me, I think this is a loner. I think this is a guy. I don't know that he particularly went after these particular young girls, but I think the place was planned and way he was going to do it was planned. Whether or not, he wanted to find two such young girls or just any person, I'm not sure. Where the opportunism comes in, where the organised criminal killer comes in to it. I'm not sure. I'm getting pins and needles in my leg. I should really re-record this, but I can't be bothered. I'll speak to you later.